WOCA.
Ocala.
I am so fascinated with this next topic. There was a story last week and then an updated story, I think it was just yesterday, about a piece of ice in Antarctica, a piece of ice the size of Delaware, if I remember what it said, and it was breaking off, or is threatening to break off soon, like a 70-mile crack. Oh, yeah, it's unbelievable. And what else was it in the Antarctica in the news lately was Buzz Aldrin, right?
Yes.
Was airlifted out of there. He was getting ill, and then if you go online and you're looking at YouTube videos of Antarctica simply because of those two stories, well, you know what else pops up is all these other stories that I don't know what you call them, conspiracy theories or whatever, about lost civilizations that used to be there and aliens that have landed there, and it goes on and on and on. It is a fascinating part of our planet that we don't think a whole lot of. You know, I sometimes feel like we know more about Mars than we do about Antarctica. Ari Friedlander has been there. Am I right to say that, Robin?
Oh, yeah, since 1997. He's been
Oh,
there
my gosh. He's an associate professor at Oregon State University's Marine Mammal Institute. He's a scientist, an ecologist, and he has been working in Antarctica since 1997. I wonder if he would like it here in Florida. It's nice and warm here. Continent 7, Antarctica, a National Geographic Channel series is what he's on the air to talk about. Good morning, Ari. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Where are you right now?
Right now I'm in California preparing to deploy our team to Antarctica.
Wow. Can you call from Antarctica, or is that possible?
Yeah, it is possible. On the research vessels that we're on, we have a satellite phone, and at some of the stations they have satellite communications as well. So you can keep in touch a lot better than you could have even 20 years ago.
Okay, so there's a special on TV that the National Geographic Channel is presenting, and what will we learn from the special?
So Continent 7's it's a really unique piece of work because it's a long series documentary. So instead of getting 1 hour of natural history or 1 hour of kind of human struggle, you get 6 episodes of it, and the crew follows 4 or 5 different research teams and documents how we go about doing research in the Antarctic, what the questions are that we're asking, and why they're important at a global scale.
And the one that airs tonight is called Science of Survival.
You know, it's an effective moniker. As you mentioned, you know, the harshness of the environment makes it really difficult for people to survive there, let alone to do science. And I think the documentary does a really good job of showing how difficult it is to work in that place, but how critical some of the information is that we're gathering.
Well, I don't know if this is a dumb question or not, but what is the weather like in Antarctica? Does it ever snow, or is that all just... In other words, it doesn't seem like it snows every time I see pictures, but yet there's snow everywhere.
You know, you're right. There's not a ton of precipitation in terms of, it's nothing like Colorado where you get hundreds of inches a year. The Antarctic Peninsula, where most of my research takes place, the weather there is much more affected by the ocean environment, which promotes a lot more precipitation and snow than it would more on top of the continent where you have the big ice cap. But,
really?
Over a long period of time, that ice accumulates into those massive ice sheets that you see.
So this time of year is actually, it's weird to say this, you're entering summertime in Antarctica, right? In the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, that's right. When we go down there at the end of this month, there'll be basically 24-hour daylight for the next month. So it's effectively a month-long day for us.
But it's cold all the time, right? It never warms up, or does it?
You know, it's a very relative thing. I tell people that working down there in the summertime is like going skiing. You know, if it's a sunny day and there's not a lot of wind, it can actually be, manageable. But as soon as it gets cloudy or as soon as the wind picks up, the wind can be devastating.
I didn't realize there was an active volcano there.
Oh, yeah, several. Mount Erebus, which is the one that gets mentioned quite a bit in the documentary, is a very large presence around McMurdo Station and some of the other stations in the Ross Sea.
Did you work with Buzz Aldrin?
I did not. the South Pole, I think, is where his expedition was going. And I study whales, and there's not a whale within about 1,500 miles of the South Pole, so a little farther away from where I work. Yeah.
Oh, this is so fascinating. Yeah, it's so huge. It's like asking somebody who's been to Australia or to Sydney, about the outback. It's two different places, right?
That's completely true. Yeah, and when you mention, an iceberg breaking off that's the size of Delaware, relative to the entire continent of Antarctica, that's a very small space, and it's a huge area. There's a huge amount of ocean and more wildlife than you could ever imagine.
All right, every once in a while now, don't excuse me if this sounds like it's coming from a nut. I'm really not a nut, but I watch videos that I think are made by nuts, but I don't know if they're nutty or not. Some of these videos show like areas of Antarctica that have no ice cover at all. They look like beautiful places that have no snow. Is that true?
There's about probably less than 1% of the Antarctic continent that's not covered by ice.
Okay.
But like we said, it's such a huge area that there are a bunch of islands, and especially around the peninsula where we work, which is just south of South America, there's a fair amount of exposed rock, lots of glaciers, but there's definitely some open areas.
When you're looking at the exposed rock, are those rock formations different than, say, you would see the rock formations in the Rocky Mountains, just because of the cold and the ice?
Yes and no. The continent of Antarctica was at some South America and Africa. So
okay, this is part of it. It sounds like you broke up a little bit. Are Ari, you still there? I wanted to ask him about the whales he studies.
Oh yeah, this phone is still on.
Ari, are you still there?
All that different.
Okay, there you are. You disappeared for a little bit. Okay,
they weren't all that.
I want to ask you about the whales. You study the whales.
Yeah.
That's your subject. Do the whales show up in, like, this is the springtime down there now, right? Is it actually warmer for them? Is that why they are there? Like, you could say relatively warmer.
Yeah, so there are two species of whale that we're really focusing on. One are humpback whales, and they migrate. So they spend the summer and fall down there, and then they migrate to tropical areas to breed. And then there's a species called the minke whale that is endemic to the Antarctic or only lives down there in the sea ice. And the things that we're interested are trying to understand as climate change occurs and this area warms up and you have less sea ice, how does that affect these two different species in different ways?
Wow, how fascinating!
Wow. And will the documentary cover the whale, the part that you do? Ari, are you there? I think he's breaking up, and we're losing it here and there. He's probably answering us, and he can't hear me.
Yeah.
Ari? Okay.
The phone line's still active.
Oh my gosh, he probably doesn't even know we can't hear him. Continent 7, Antarctica, is what the show is called. It's, what do you say, 6-part series?
Yes.
6 episodes in the National Geographic Channel series. Ari Friedlander is probably in the show. I'm guessing you'll be able to see him, but it doesn't look like we're going to have enough time to say much else because we're up against the break. Ari, if you're listening and you can hear us, thank you so much for being on the air with us. We are looking forward to seeing the special. I love this kind of stuff, especially when it's National Geographic. I don't know. I watch stuff on YouTube. You don't know what to believe. Mm-hmm. National Geographic, I always put some faith in that.
Tonight at 10 p.m., Science of Survival, and then next Sunday, Race to Escape.
Oh, wow. Ari, if you're listening, thank you for being on the air with us. For everybody else, we'll be right back. Fun with Joe coming up in 10 minutes.
Fox News Radio.